a secret underground waterway for military ships, a creative coffee that tastes like a strong local liquor called Kaoliang, and a glow-in-the-dark phenomenon that could give the Northern Lights a run for its money. These are just some of the things you'll find in the outlying islands of Matsu. Now, late spring is one of the toughest times of the year to travel to Matsu. A lot of flights get canceled due to bad weather. But spring is also the best season to catch a glimpse of the blue tears. So we're going to find our way to Matsu no matter what it takes. So we were supposed to take a plane to Matsu, but it turns out that Matsu gets a lot of fog. So instead, we have to go there by boat. How long is it going to take? 3 hours. See you in Matsu. The official name of Matsu is Lienchiang County. It's a chain of 36 islands just off the southeastern coast of China. The closest point is just 9 kilometers away, making it an important frontline post in early confrontations between Taiwan and China. When tensions eased in the early 90s, this once forbidden outpost opened to visitors, but you can still see soldiers and hear the sounds of artillery practice. For our first stop in Matsu, the county chief brings us to an old military site that he says every visitor should see.
这个地方叫做北海坑道。北海坑道大概民国57年，军方在这边的时候开始兴建。它当初最主要的目的是两岸对峙的时候呢，这边做地下码头。
It took nearly 3 years to create this 640-meter waterway. Teams of soldiers worked round the clock using dynamite to blast their way through the granite. It was hard work, and lives were lost in the process.
早期的时候，这个地方是马祖最神秘的一个区块，一般人是不能进来的，因为外围有部队守着。那渐渐的开放以后呢？ 那现在就把它开发成观光。
At low tide, you can walk along the edges, but at high tide, the path is underwater, so the county chief invites me on a boat ride instead. Back in the day, these waters could hold 120 boats. Today, the county chief says the waters contain a lot of fish and a lot of iPhones. And while there's not much to see, there is plenty to hear.
"这辅音句
好棒哦，
好棒哈，
很像威尼斯，
就是威尼斯没有我们漂亮，
有没有？ Now, the gondoliers in Matsu don't usually sing, but you can catch a proper concert in these tunnels, and that's just one of the creative ways that Matsu is moving beyond its military past. Another way is religion. Everywhere you turn in Matsu, there are temples dedicated to Matsu, the goddess of the sea. Everything from tiny temples like this one to one of the tallest statues of her in the world.
马祖以前最早很多人打鱼，马祖是我们海上的守护神，所以说当初国军迁徙到马祖时候，他一样喜欢马祖。
It's not hard to guess that the islands are named after the goddess, but there's an important distinction. The goddess is Matsu, using the character for mother. So why is the island chain called Matsu, using the character for horse?
马祖比较柔，那国军比较雄壮威武，把妈去掉你这边就变马祖。
But people here still revere the goddess, so much so that they set out to build the world's tallest statue of her. It took 10 years to complete and is made up of 365 granite stones, a symbol of blessings for each day of the year. They also found a clever way to incorporate Taiwan's annual Matsu pilgrimages, which attract millions of people, right into the design of the complex. During the Matsu procession, devotees will actually lie down in the middle of the road and allow the statue to pass over them as a blessing. Now here they've actually set up a palanquin and you can walk underneath it for good luck. Let's go. This passageway was once used by the army. No surprise considering that Matsu has the highest density of military tunnels in the world. 40 years of military rule left a mark on these islands and a culture that runs as deep as religion. These days, they use many of the old military buildings for art exhibits and other events. The county chief shows me one of the most surprising venues located in Meishi Village, a repurposed military brothel that's now used for an international art festival, the Matsu Biennial.
我们把整个的马祖叫做国际艺术岛，有岛屿博物馆的观念。我觉得马祖应该要保有自己的特色。我觉得开发不要太快，慢慢的，那这样子我们的观光才会做得更长远、更长久。
So what does sustainable tourism look like in Matsu? Well, we traveled to the island of Beigan to find out. Stone houses line the slopes, looking out over a curved bay and a small beach below. They feature high, narrow windows cut into the granite like eyes looking out at the sea. You'd be forgiven for thinking we'd left Taiwan.
有人称它为亚洲的地中海，在那边很悠闲的喝杯咖啡，看看对岸的我们的龟岛，再看看对岸的环起，就在遥遥之间，就近在咫尺。
This is Qinbi, a little fishing village about 15 kilometers off the coast of China. People have been living here since the 13th century. But when the fishing industry fell into decline in the 1970s, most of the residents moved to the main island of Taiwan in search of work. After they opened the islands to tourism in the mid-90s, Qinbi experienced a renaissance. Today, it's one of the hottest destinations in Matsu. Strict regulations have helped preserve the village of Qinbi like a time capsule. Everywhere you turn, there are signs from Matsu's Cold War past. It's an interesting time to visit Matsu, with cross-strait tensions threatening to boil over again. But the county chief is unfazed.
会紧张是你们外国人，我们一点都不紧张。为什么不紧张？我们从小在这边长大，在战地政务时期，我们每天晚上都要躲防空洞，那个日子我们经过了。
In many ways, the people of Matsu are like the buildings of Qinbi. They've seen a lot, and they'll remain steadfast for centuries to come, no matter which way the political winds blow. You can tell a lot about a place by what the locals eat, or in the case of Matsu, what they drink. Nice and strong, just like I like it. The islands are known for a strong liquor made from sorghum called Kaoliang. They opened a state-run distillery here in the 1950s. It helped bring in revenue at the height of the military conflict with China.
然后最重要的有个地方不能漏掉，我们的酒，在88坑道，藏在坑道里面，我们的高粱，我们的陈高，都是得到世界冠军。
Tunnel 88 was a lucky find. The distillery had run out of storage space, so they decided to use an abandoned military tunnel. They later discovered that the constant temperature and humidity of the tunnel make it the perfect environment for aging wine. They store Kaoliang in modern tanks, while the pots, they contain one of the most popular beverages for locals, laojiu, or literally old wine. Now the wine's not old, it's made from an old recipe that early immigrants brought from China to Matsu. They probably never imagined that their wine would be made in a large distillery, or that a young entrepreneur would use it to create an alcohol-free coffee and serve it in a traditional morning market.
就是咖啡跟这个酒是好朋友，
意外的相恋了。
Barista Cho Si-chi has also teamed up with a local chocolatier to make truffles with Kaoliang, something I never imagined eating for breakfast.
It's like having a shot with chocolate, but very good.
The fusion of old and new can also be found in a modern bistro in one of Matsu's earliest settlements, Magang. It's the birthplace of an award-winning craft beer flavored with honeysuckle. The inspiration is a beloved Catholic nun from Belgium who served in Matsu for 25 years. She delivered many babies back in the day, including the bar's owner, Yao Yi.
那我就把比利时的啤酒，然后还有这个无私的奉献马祖在地的金银花去做结合，所以想说，哎，好像没有人把它做酒，大家都泡茶。
Two young entrepreneurs took a chance opening their businesses during the pandemic, and both found success using Matsu's past as inspiration. Cho Si-chi helps promote the other stalls in the market too. He says that's the true spirit of Matsu.
其实现在的马祖真正的同岛移民，不再是说以前就大家共同承担一个生命的危险，而是说老人家用他们的经验来帮助年轻人传承。年轻人用自己的活力、自己的新的思维去给老人家新的思路，然后共同合作，打开新的思路跟契机，然后找寻更多的机会，这样子。
As my time in Matsu draws to a close, I travel to the most remote islands in the chain, where decades of military and geographic isolation have preserved some of the most stunning sights in all of Taiwan. Like this rare sight, square waves, which you can only see in 2 other places in the world. And then there's the critically endangered Chinese crested tern. There are only 100 of them left on Earth. And in the island of Dongju, we get a solo performance from this striking beauty.
This is the only lighthouse in all of Taiwan made from granite stones. And see that wall there? That's to block the wind. So imagine late at night, you're bringing fuel up to fuel the lighthouse. You're carrying a little lantern. You don't have to worry about the flame blowing out.
There's one last thing to see in our trip to Matsu, an elusive phenomenon known as the blue tears. The bioluminescence comes from plankton, which gather here to feed in the spring. If you want to see it, you need just the right conditions. High tide, a southerly wind, a moon that's not too bright, and you'll need some waves, a boat, or something else to agitate the water. In the past, the locals thought the blue glow was a nuisance because it alerted the authorities to people smuggling on the high seas. But these days, the blue tears bring in a new source of income: tourism. Thousands of people flock here every year hoping to see what the international media have called one of the natural wonders of the world. Some people even brave the cold seawater, soaking for hours just to get the perfect photo. And of course, while I'm there, I can't resist getting a photo of my own. But what if you want a less curated view of the blue tears? We decide to leave the crowds behind and take a boat into the darkness of the ocean.
It's almost like you're looking into outer space. You can see sparkling like stars, the Milky Way, this essence coming up from the waters. It's breathtaking. And it's one of those things that you have to come here in order to see it for yourself, otherwise you would never believe it.
It's not easy to see the sights of Matsu. In just 4 days, we took a plane, 7 boats, and plenty of car rides in between. But the trip is worth it. Isolated by the weather and the sea and years of military occupation, these islands are like nowhere else in Taiwan. Or really, nowhere else in the world.